Hey everyone, Benson, Performance Capability. Hope you're doing well. So here's the thing, everyone's chasing pleasure, but here's the uncomfortable truth. Pleasure doesn't make you powerful, pain does. The people at the top, the elite, the performers, the people who are literally outstanding, they don't run from pain, they hunt it. They understand that pain isn't punishment, it's performance training. Pain is the weight room for the mind, the forge of your character. So let me ask you this. What would you change if you stopped running from pain and started using it as your edge? Literally, what hidden strength have you never ever touched because, you've avoided discomfort? And here's the other question, the ultimate question. If pain is the ticket to the life that you ultimately want, are you willing to pay the price? Let's find out in this message. Let's run the intro.
Hold your breath, all the moves we're making.
All right, so let me begin with three powerful questions. What would your life situation look like if you stopped running from discomfort? What kind of strength could you build if you deliberately walked away from the very pain that most other people avoid? And how much potential have you left untapped because you choose safety instead of what I call the edge? You've been told to chase pleasure and avoid pain and make life easy. But high performers literally do the opposite. They endure pain, they hunt for discomfort, and that's why they win. See, power is not found in the middle ground where most live, safely nestled between routine and comfort. It's found at the edge where limits are tested, where fear is confronted, where the mind and body are forced to evolve. Most avoid this place. See, they fear what it will reveal, but those who seek dominance over themselves and over situations, over fate, must learn to go where the weak refuse to tread. Neuroscience calls this principle stress adaptation. Your brain and body adapt not in comfort, but under challenge. Psychology confirms it too. Confidence doesn't come from ease, it comes from evidence. It comes from stepping into difficulty again and again. See, studies on resilience training reveal that confidence grows when individuals take on challenges slightly beyond their comfort zone and succeed, creating a loop of proof that they can handle even more. The edge isn't just philosophy, it's biology and psychology, scientifically proven as the ground where real confidence is forged. See, here's the first question. If growth only happens at the edge, why do you keep running back to the center? The truth is, the center feels safe, but it keeps you stagnant. Only by stepping to the edge do you find the resistance that builds strength. And that's exactly why we must confront the problem head on. See, here's the problem. Most people design their lives to avoid discomfort. They avoid rejection, they avoid hard work, and they avoid the challenge. But in so doing, they also avoid growth, resilience, and ultimate greatness. Pleasure makes you comfortable. Pain makes you capable. Most people fear the edge because they don't trust themselves to survive it. This is why they fail. The weak waste their energy searching for shortcuts, seeking ways to bypass discomfort, to slip through life unnoticed by hardship. See, science confirms that avoidance is costly. Studies in behavioral psychology show that chronic avoidance strengthens fear circuits in the amygdala, rewiring the brain to become even more sensitive to stress over time. See, exposure therapy research demonstrates that facing discomfort directly reduces fear responses and builds lasting resilience. In other words, by avoiding discomfort, you don't escape it, you amplify it. But discomfort is relentless. It will case you, it will follow you, and it will find you whether you invite it or not. The only choice you have is to face it now or let it consume you later. Here's question 2. What is the discomfort in your life right now that you've been dodging, but deep down you know is the very test that you must face? Because once you name it, you strip it of all its power. And when you stop avoiding it and begin engaging with it, you step into the same path that the greatest performers walk. The path we'll see illustrated in the people that make us want to be more than we currently are. See, look at elite endurance athletes. They willingly put their bodies through ultra marathons, Ironman triathlons, and grueling stage races across deserts and mountains. How do they do that? Their training pushes them to exhaustion, sometimes injury, and beyond what seems possible. Yet it's precisely by seeking this level of pain that they discover reserves of strength most people never touch. That mindset translates into resilience and elite performance under any condition. See, I see this in my own business. Once a client came to me afraid of presenting in front of the company's leadership team. His entire career had been shaped by avoiding that very edge. So together, we reframed the fear, practiced under pressure, and pushed him into environments where discomfort was guaranteed. At first, his voice shook, his heart raced, but week by week, he learned to breathe through it and normalize it. That's the key. To get comfortable knowing the edge was where his growth ultimately lived. Eventually, he walked into that boardroom and delivered with clarity, confidence, and power. His breakthrough wasn't in removing the discomfort, but in leaning into it, living it, and ultimately embracing it. See, let me give you this example. The samurai of feudal Japan understood this principle. Before battle, warriors of the highest order practiced a mental exercise known as dying before going into combat. They would meditate deeply on their own death, envisioning literally their blood spilling, their limbs severed, their corpses rotting in the field. They embraced the very worst before it could happen, so that when the moment came, if the moment came, when swords clashed, the death danced around them. There was no hesitation, no fear, no second guessing. They had already gone to the edge in their minds and then returned. The battle was simply the execution of what they had already accepted. All right, question number 3. What if instead of fearing the edge, you trained at the edge until it became familiar ground? Imagine what would happen if the very place that once triggered your fear became the space you now call home. That's when the edge transforms enemy into ally. See, the soldier who hardens himself for battle long before the war comes will not break when the first shot is fired. The strategist who researches and rehearses defeat long before it happens will not hesitate when crises strike. The performer who has already embraced failure before stepping on stage will not crumble under its own weight. Going to the edge means embracing the unknown, courting it, studying it, and learning its darkest corners. When you shine a light into the places you fear the most, you expose the truths that were hidden, blind spots that limited you. At first, these shadows might terrify, but the longer you stand in them, the more familiar they become. What was once an abyss becomes territory of your own. By making peace with the unknown, you transform fear into familiarity, and the edge becomes your training ground instead of your prison. All right, question number 4. What hidden strength might you uncover if you stop running from the dark corners of your own life and choose to shine a light there instead? The truth is, the very places you avoid often conceal some of the treasures that you need the most. Clarity, courage, capacity, capability. When you face them, you don't just discover strength, you dismantle fear. And that brings us to the core principle: why ordinary people avoid pain, but extraordinary people pursue it. Ordinary people avoid pain, extraordinary people pursue it. Why? The weak break, but the strong walk the line. Why do they do that? How do they do that? See, the powerful move towards the edge willingly because they have already accepted the worst case scenario and made peace with it. When you strip away the illusion of safety, when you embrace discomfort, when you voluntarily suffer, you remove the greatest weapon the world has against you, and that's fear. Consider this. Where in your life are you avoiding discomfort right now? Thinking makes you safe, but in reality, it's keeping you small, it's keeping you stagnant, and it's keeping you blind to your true source of strength. What would happen if you reframed pain as training instead of punishment? Seeing every challenge as a workout for your character, every setback as a drill for your resistance, every moment of struggle as a resistance that builds the muscle of your mind and ultimately your spirit. What's one area where you could deliberately seek discomfort this week? Maybe at work, maybe in your relationships, maybe in your body. See, what would you change if you trusted yourself enough to go to the edge? If you not only stepped into discomfort, but learned to make its terrain familiar to you, to see clearly in its darkest corners, and to return from it carrying strength that you didn't know you had. Here's the call to action. I want you to do a couple of things. Number one, start practicing deliberate discomfort. Take the cold shower, do the extra reps, have the tough conversation. High performers don't wait for pain. They seek it because they know it's the birthplace of ultimate power. If you choose to go to the edge, you will see what others cannot. Go beyond it and you will own what they fear to touch. The way out is not only around, not over, not under. The way out is always through. And here's the final question. If the way out is through, what edge will you choose to walk today? This is Benson for Performance Capability. I hope you got some value out of this video. Be sure to go to the edge. And until then, follow the 7 stars. I'll see you soon.